Remember the story of Alexi Trevizo? She's the 19-year-old cheerleader who carried a 5-pound, 9-ounce baby to full term, then put him in a hospital trash can.
We did a pregnancy test on her, showed positive. She was a 9, that she had sex. Then she said she had to go to the bathroom. She went to the bathroom. She was in there for quite a while. We kept knocking on the door. Finally, we got her to open the door, and there was blood and shit everywhere. She was cleaning it up. So we took her back to the room, and I was afraid that she knew she was pregnant. She had done something to herself. So the doctor started doing a vaginal exam on her. We had the lady come to clean the bathroom. She put the baby in the trash can, and then she put another clean liner over the top of it.
Okay.
So when they looked in there, there was no trash in there, but it was underneath a clean bag. The baby's dead. Okay, we have him in trauma too, but she killed the kid.
She arrived at the ER complaining of back pains when, in truth, she was actually in labor. Alexi told the ER staff she was a virgin. Soon after, she would run to the bathroom, clutching her backside, and would give birth to her baby boy in total silence. The nurses standing outside the door of the bathroom heard multiple flushes as she attempted to erase evidence of what was truly going on behind the door. Then Alexi meticulously wrapped her newborn son in a plastic bag and placed him at the bottom of the trash can beneath a clean liner to evade detection. And as if that weren't enough, she exited a bloody scene in the bathroom with the ridiculous excuse that her menstrual cycle was responsible for the mess.
And so I said, you okay? What happened? And she said, I'm on my period, she said. And she walked out.
Fast forward a few months, we all had gotten wind that she and her legal team were filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the hospital. Well, new news has surfaced. Alexi Trevizo and her legal counsel now blame the death of her baby on the very nurse who treated her in the hospital, and her attorney has notified the hospital of their intent to sue. We're going to get into it, but first be sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on updates to this story, trending topics, and so much more. Now let's get into it. The story of Alexi Trevizo is extremely unsettling. 19 years of age and a senior in high school, she entered the spotlight in January 2023 when she gave birth to her son in an emergency room bathroom. Police say that she took his life by suffocation, concealing his body beneath a layer of trash bags in a trash can. However, her lawyer now says that the primary responsibility for the baby's tragic fate lies with the nurse who provided care at the hospital, completely absolving Alexi due to her state of shock.
She just lost a son. She just lost a child. Well, I mean, come on, there's got to be some common human decency here. She's at the only facility where she can get help, and then this happens? I have serious problems with that. I have serious problems with the hospital care. I have serious problems with the records we're now getting out of that hospital because I don't think it's necessarily correct and honest. So she is shocked whenever she delivers a baby. And then the issue of what caused the baby's death is going to be one that's going to be litigated. I already have a real good idea what caused the baby's death. It had nothing to do with my client. She was not at fault.
He says that the hospital staff administered drugs such as morphine to Alexi in response to her back pain without first confirming her medical condition through test results.
They gave her major medication. Some of that medication certainly dangerous to a unborn child or fetus, and contraindicated if you're pregnant, certainly contraindicated if you're going to breastfeed later on. And that medication was started without finding out whether or not she was pregnant.
But when asked if she could be pregnant, Alexi vehemently denied the notion. stating that she had never participated in any activities that could lead to pregnancy.
I believe, I wasn't in the room, but I believe that's when the doctor said, hey, your test came back positive for pregnancy. She adamantly denied it up to that point, even with me the entire time. She said she was a virgin. She's had her period every month consistently. The doc was doing that.
Then you said that, and she told you that when you were triaging?
She told me that in triage,
Okay.
that she was a virgin and that she had her last pregnancy was just prior on that month and had.
You mean period? Because
Yeah,
you said pregnancy.
I'm sorry, yeah. Her period, she had them consistently every month.
I asked the patient and her mother if she could be pregnant. Her mother said no, under no circumstances. I've been buying pads for her every month.
I won't cover all of the details here, but if you're not familiar with this case, you can catch up by watching my deep dive into it here, where I've laid out all of the intricacies of what transpired during Alexi's visit to the ER. Alexi's attorney, Gary Mitchell, told the Daily Mail that he has taken the preliminary steps to initiate legal action against the hospital, and he contends that the drugs given to Alexi led to a stillbirth.
The child, we know, had morphine in the system. It only got that morphine because the hospital gave it to him. And the hospital didn't stop the medication after they learned that she was pregnant. They didn't take the IV out then. They waited 48 minutes and continued to give her not only morphine, but sodium chloride, that's salt. That's not unusual, and that should be. Ketorolac, Zofran, and morphine. So this is a situation in which the hospital failed her, the nurses and doctors failed her, the office of the medical investigator has failed her.
He says that the nurse's decision to permit Alexi to use the restroom, knowing she was pregnant, the medication that they administered, and the doctor's slowness to deliver the test results are the key factors that led to the tragic loss of Alexi's baby's life. You heard that right. According to him, it's the nurse's and doctor's fault. This is both insane and infuriating.
And went there and indicated on a pain scale of 1 to 10 that she was at a 10. But not a single one of them told her that she was pregnant. Not a single one of them told her that we need to examine you. This is a classic instance. The female feels the need to go to the restroom. Maybe we better check and make sure she's not delivering a baby. I mean, you just don't allow that kind of thing if you know what you're doing. They did, and they didn't bother to tell her.
Alexi's attorney is laying out for us the defense he intends to adopt, and I must say, it's rather unusual. When you think about it, juries are made up of individuals from the public sphere, much like you and me. We're not a uniform entity. Our diverse life experiences, values, and beliefs shape our varied perspectives and ultimately our individual decisions. However, what most of us do share is our ability to detect BS. No disrespect to her attorney. Undoubtedly, he is highly skilled and he's doing his job to establish a defense based on the facts he's been given. But the strategy he's staking his claim on seems to be disingenuous and a bit implausible. It seems he wants to discard everything that Alexi did to hide her pregnancy and focus solely on the ER staff who attempted to provide Alexi with appropriate care while all the while they were being lied to. I've quietly held this sentiment for months, ever since I've encountered this case. Now, as his strategy becomes clearer, I find it difficult to shake off the unmistakable stench of BS that surrounds this situation. It's obvious we don't have all of the facts, but we can begin to shape our verdict inclinations based on the facts we currently have at our disposal. To be entirely frank, some of the statements put forth by Alexi's legal team to the various media outlets come across as rather offensive. And if I feel intellectually slighted listening to his arguments, I am certain the potential jurors for this case will also feel the same way. Let's pretend we're jurors. Here is the chain of events according to the witnesses' statements, hospital surveillance, and body cam footage. Again, for a more detailed account of the story, please check out this video. Okay, so around noon on January 26, 2023, Alexi complained of lower back pains to her mother. At around midnight, Alexi and her mother would arrive at the ER. Alexi, appearing restless and wearing baggy clothes, complains of lower back and abdominal pains to the intake nurse. She adamantly denies the possibility of being pregnant due to her claim of being a virgin. Her mother supports her denial, stating that she buys pads for Alexi every month.
And when I initially evaluated her, she really wouldn't sit still. She wouldn't really let me examine her. She had on a very baggy sweatshirt. And a 19-year-old with back pain, the vast majority of the time, that's not going to be anything serious, but she was just not really acting right, and so I became concerned that there was something else going on, potentially a kidney stone or something like that. I asked the patient and her mother if she could be pregnant. Her mother said no, under no circumstances. I've been buying pads for her every month.
The ER doctor examines Alexi and orders tests, including a urine pregnancy test. Alexi is then moved to a treatment room and an IV drip is given for pain relief. Approximately 45 minutes later, the urine pregnancy test confirms she's pregnant, and the medical team informs the doctor of the positive result. The doctor then orders a second test, a blood test, to confirm the pregnancy's status. Then an ultrasound technician is requested to help assess the situation. Alexi requests to go to the bathroom, and a nurse then helps her detach from the IV. At 1:39 a.m., Alexi rushes down the hallway clutching her backside. Rosa, Alexi's mother, anxiously checks on her twice from outside the securely locked bathroom door. Approximately 15 minutes later, the ER doctor is notified of Alexi's prolonged stay in the bathroom. Meanwhile, the results of the blood tests are still awaited. Outside the bathroom door, Nurse Chris checks in on Alexi. In response to the nurse's inquiries about her well-being, Alexi claims she's having difficulty using the bathroom, although the unmistakable sound of multiple flushes permeates the otherwise quiet room. At 1:57 a.m., Alexi emerges from the bathroom, revealing a bloody scene. When Nurse Chris asked what happened in there, Alexi responded, "I'm on my period." Blood streaked across the walls and the floor, highlighting Alexi's effort to clean up. Alexi returns to her room, leaving behind her a trail of bloody footprints. After the chaotic bathroom scene, the doctor at last reveals the shocking news to Alexi and Rosa. Alexi is pregnant. But from the looks of the bathroom, the doctor suggests that Alexi may have had a miscarriage. But even after giving birth and the undeniable positive test results, Alexi maintained to her mother that she was a virgin. Alexi receives a pelvic exam which reveals a significant amount of blood and a wide open cervix, which baffled the doctor. Then the charge nurse urgently calls for the doctor's assistance, revealing the discovery of a deceased baby in the trash can. The baby was found in a tied plastic bag hidden underneath trash and a clean liner in the trash can. The doctor examines the baby, but there are no signs of life, and she doesn't attempt resuscitation. His umbilical cord was still attached, but the placenta was nowhere in sight. The doctor shifts her attention back to Alexi's bleeding, now aware that she's tending to a new mother who has recently delivered a full-term baby boy. The doctor was concerned about the placenta. Was it properly expelled alongside the baby? The possibility that it might still be inside raises alarming implications. Without intervention, this could lead to severe hemorrhaging and endanger the mother's life. The doctor recommends transferring Alexi to Lovelace Regional Hospital for appropriate postpartum care. The ER staff requests the presence of the police at the hospital. Then, in the presence of law enforcement, the doctor informed Alexi and Rosa about the deceased baby's discovery. Alexi admits to putting the baby in the trash can. Then the police inform Alexi she was being detained, and then shortly after, an ultrasound was conducted, during which Alexi revealed that she had ceased taking her birth control pills and had turned to weight loss medication as an alternative. Later, Alexi was transferred to Lovelace Regional Hospital. Interestingly, despite the ER doctor's initial concern, the placenta that had raised alarm was never located. This search extended to the doctors at Lovelace, who likewise could not find any trace of it.
So did any of the nursing staff find the placenta at the emergency room?
No.
No? Okay.
I have no idea what happened with the placenta.
She didn't deliver it at Lovelace either.
She probably put it in the toilet, would be my guess.
And would that have been something that was able to be flushed?
It depends on how broken up it was. I mean, if it's torn, it potentially could have been flushable.
The autopsy report stated that the baby had been born alive. He had air in his lungs. His cause of death is entrapment, which happens when someone is in an airtight environment and suffocates when there is no longer enough oxygen available to sustain life. Alexi's lawyer says it was the nurse's fault, that the morphine and other drugs Alexi was given at the hospital caused a stillbirth. But doctors say that morphine is indeed a routine therapeutic that is frequently given to pregnant women to alleviate their back pain.
Morphine is administered to pregnant women in emergency rooms all the time. It is not a deviation to do it. It's done regularly because of severe pain. When there is knowledge that a woman is pregnant, morphine is still administered under certain circumstances.
While the drugs Alexi was given at the hospital will be a topic fiercely argued in court, one thing rings 100% true. Alexi's choice to deliberately enclose the baby in an airtight plastic bag gave the baby zero chance at survival. No one survives in an airtight plastic bag. The baby's toxicology report revealed that caffeine, morphine, and phentermine were present in his system. Morphine would be consistent with the hospital giving Alexi meds for her pain. And phentermine, a popular weight loss drug, would be consistent with the statement Alexi made to Nurse Elizabeth that she stopped birth control and started taking weight loss pills. A medical malpractice lawyer says that the quantity of morphine found in the baby's system was minuscule. He suggests it would not have been sufficient to cause his demise. He also says that Alexi's lawyer would be hard-pressed to find a board-certified medical examiner to say otherwise.
And the claim that 0.19 nanograms of morphine was the causative agent. Keep in mind that a nanogram is 1/billionth of a gram. This was 1900ths of 1/billionth of a gram of morphine in this infant system. So the fact that there was a fraction of a billionth of a gram of morphine found in this child's system did not kill this child. And I don't think the defense can possibly find a board-certified forensic pathologist who can say this baby was killed by the hospital.
But I am intrigued by what Alexi's lawyer chooses not to address. Notably absent is any mention of Alexi's use of the drug phentermine, which is unequivocally discouraged for pregnant women. What's striking to me is the lawyer's silence on this detail. Phentermine, a stimulant with documented effects such as heightened heart palpitations, elevated blood pressure, and dizziness, is a substance that Alexi took for a sustained period during her pregnancy. Medical professionals strictly advise against the use of phentermine during pregnancy or breastfeeding under any circumstances. Looking at the toxicology report, you see the baby had more phentermine in his system than morphine, yet there is no mention of this in any of the lawyers' talks. And I think I know why. Now that you have the facts, let's get into my thoughts. If I were a juror on this case with knowledge of all of this information, these would be my jury room perspectives. Alexi's legal representation attributes her actions of discarding her baby in the trash to her being in a state of shock. Well, this begs the questions. What is the legal definition of emotional shock? And how does one distinguish it from just being plain old scared that you're about to be found out? All of us have gotten scared for one reason or another. Alexi said it herself. She lied about putting the baby in the trash because she was scared. Is being scared a legal defense now?
You put it in the bag?
Yes.
Yeah. In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now? You could get in trouble.
This definition that I'm about to share with you may vary from state to state, but when I search for emotional distress as a criminal defense, it says it varies from insanity or mental disease. It requires that the defendant suffered from an extreme emotional disturbance and that they suffered a profound loss of control. I think the lawyer's argument is weak on this point. Why? Because the argument that Alexi went into shock immediately following having a baby in the bathroom is weakened by her consistent behavior before, during, and after the tragic event. Shock is commonly characterized by a state of emotional and mental disarray, often resulting in erratic or unpredictable behavior, a loss of control, as stated in the legal definition. And despite the shock-inducing circumstances that her lawyer claims, Alexi's actions remained consistent with her typical conduct. This shows a level of self-control that contradicts the notion of a severe shock-induced impairment. Alexi consistently exhibited composed, deliberate actions and maintained a coherent narrative when interacting with medical staff, her mother, and law enforcement. Ride with me here. Alexi's mother, Rosa, told law enforcement that Alexi has endured persistent lower back and hip pain due to a spinal curvature she's had since birth. Given this context, it's reasonable to infer that this ER visit might not have been particularly different from previous visits. Her pain may have been more intense, but the pain was familiar, according to her mother. If indeed Alexi was genuinely unaware of her pregnancy, these pains could have easily been misconstrued as the familiar discomfort she had encountered on previous occasions, making this visit a somewhat routine visit to the ER.
So what did she come here for that she told you?
She told me she had back pain.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Has she been having back pain before?
Yeah, pain for her and her hips is she was born with like her, I don't know, it's like crooked.
Her spine?
Okay, because my ex-husband, he hit me. He beat me whenever I was pregnant with her. Mm-hmm. So she was early. So she had some problems with her hips. Like I always had to take her to the chiropractor to get adjusted because she couldn't use, like, she was always getting constipated. Like she had to get lined up, whatever. So, I mean, I've been taking her to chiropractor because I always thought, this time, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know. I just thought, like she said, I had back pain more. My hips are hurting me. I think I need to go to the chiropractor. I said, okay, let's go tomorrow. But she was like in really a lot of pain and,
When did it start?
Like the pain?
Yes.
Yesterday she said it was really bad. that her hips were hurting and her back. And then last night, we're on the phone together and she said her hips were hurting bad. And I asked her if anything else was hurting. And she said just everything. And she went to sleep.
But she's a cheerleader too, so she's big in cheers. They have cheer competition. She works out. I mean,
And she's been active this whole
yeah,
time?
she's been active this whole time.
It was reported that Alexi had been experiencing this pain for at least 12 hours prior to deciding to go to the ER. She had even taken a nap prior to deciding to eventually go to the hospital. When Alexi presented herself in the emergency room in baggy clothes and suffering with a familiar type of pain that had been a constant in her life, she did something very telling. When she checked in with the intake nurse, she complained of lower back pain, and when asked if she was pregnant, she didn't tell the truth. She lied to the ER staff, emphatically saying she was a virgin, that she had never participated in activities that could lead to her being pregnant.
She was extremely duplicitous. She lied to us the entire time. It was it was an extraordinarily difficult case. The nursing staff were distraught. The housekeeper was distraught. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's been a terrible case.
The ER team also described Alexi as evasive and observed her fidgeting while trying to conceal her pregnant belly beneath her loose-fitting clothes. Now, people generally don't go into shock when experiencing something familiar, and they certainly don't nap in the process. It's unlikely that someone would be able to take a nap while in a state of shock, especially if we're talking about an immediate shock response. Shock often involves symptoms like elevated heart rate, rapid breathing, confusion, anxiety, and a state of emotional distress. These changes are not conducive to falling asleep. So I think it's safe to say that Alexi was not in shock when she arrived at the ER. And because she was not experiencing shock during that period, we can use this interaction as a reference point for understanding Alexi's typical behavior. This interaction and the falsehood she shared with the ER staff establishes a baseline. It highlights her evasiveness and propensity to lie, even when her physical health depended on it. So then, the question arises, when did this state of shock her lawyer speaks of truly take hold? If we look at Alexi's actions throughout the entirety of the ordeal, you will see she remained consistent throughout. After going through the intake, Alexi continued to perpetuate this lie even when they moved her and started to treat her with medications that, according to the nurse, began to provide her relief. Okay, so we have our baseline. When Alexi is not under the spell of shock, she's evasive and she lies. When Alexi asked to go to the bathroom at 1:39 a.m., she was seen running through the halls, clutching her backside. In her own words, Alexi said the baby came out as soon as she sat down on the toilet.
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth.
517-836-460.
That came out in the toilet? You put it in the bag?
Yes.
If this is true, when Rosa made her first trip to the bathroom door at 1:40, Alexi likely had already given birth. Then at 1:52 a.m., when Nurse Chris appeared at the bathroom door, Alexi's baby would have been about 10 minutes old. 10 minutes in, Alexi surely would have been well into the process of severing the umbilical cord, flushing the placenta, putting him in a plastic bag, tying it, putting him in the trash can, putting a clean liner over him, and then trying to clean up. when she responded, "I'm just having a hard time using the bathroom." Here we have lie number 2, where despite the chaotic scene unfolding in the bathroom, Alexi chose to weave yet another lie and tell it to the nurse to conceal what was actually going on behind the door. But this lie is significant as it transpires during the very period her lawyer claims she was in a state of shock. To fabricate a lie under these traumatic conditions demonstrates a remarkable level of self-regulation and is contrary to the notion of a loss of control. Isn't it interesting how her interactions with the medical staff remained consistent even at this traumatic moment? Again, the question arises, when did this state of shock her lawyer speaks of truly take hold? At 1:57 a.m., Alexi can be seen emerging from the bathroom. Nurse Chris and the doctor are at the door and couldn't help but to notice the bloody massacre mess she was leaving in her wake. By this time, Alexi had completed the tasks of tearing the umbilical cord, flushing the placenta, putting the baby in a plastic bag, tying it in a knot, putting him in the trash, and putting a clean liner over him, and cleaning up, at least as best as she could. The physical work was behind her, and when Nurse Chris asked what happened in there, Alexi replied in a calm demeanor, "I'm on my period." And then she walked back to her room. Look at her. She's as cool as a cucumber, cleaning her hands, tucking her hair behind her ear as she walks and talks with the ER doctor along the way back to her room while leaving a trail of bloody footprints behind her. It's evident that Alexi lies effortlessly and with a strong sense of belief in her own lies. This marks the third instance where she resorts to lying to conceal the truth. Her responses and reactions thus far are consistent with her baseline behavior we referenced in the beginning. In my humble opinion, Alexi's ability to provide consistent explanations, maintain a level of composure, and adhere to routine actions indicates a capacity to manage her emotions and mental processes, which is incongruent with the disorienting effects typically associated with someone in shock. When did this state of shock her lawyer speaks of truly take hold? While that baby lay hidden in an airtight environment in the bottom of the trash can, she went back to her room and resumed her facade, allowing the doctor to continue guessing about what was actually going on. Following the incident in the bathroom where Alexi experienced significant bleeding, the doctor determined that a pelvic exam was necessary. According to the timeline, it was right before this examination that the doctor informed Alexi and her mother, Rosa, about the pregnancy and suggested it appeared to be a miscarriage based on the bathroom scene.
Some tests on her.
Okay, prior to the bowel movement, did you tell her that y'all got a positive?
No, the doc hadn't been in there to tell her yet.
Okay, so
after that, her and the patient went back to the room. The physician and a female nurse went in to do the vaginal exam just to make sure everything was good there. I believe, I wasn't in the room, but I believe that's when the doctor said, "Hey, your test came back positive for pregnancy." She adamantly denied it up to that point, even with me the entire time. She said she was a virgin. She's had her period every month consistently.
I didn't have much contact with her until she exited the restroom. I didn't take care of her before that. But
So the
after
patient?
that, I took care of her. Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us what happened?
So she came out of the restroom. There was a little trail of blood from the bathroom back to her room. We went to her room. I went to get her undressed. The doctor came in, explained to her that she had a miscarriage. Her and her mom had a back and forth about it.
the doctor said she had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
She said it seems, essentially, I'm not sure the exact words, so it was a few months ago, but she said, it seems that you've suffered from a miscarriage. And then got her in the bed, got her in a gown, helped her clean up. Doc came in, we did the pelvic.
To provide a backdrop to the widely circulated body cam footage capturing Rosa's uncomfortable reaction, it's important to understand that both Rosa and Alexi had only been informed of the pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage about a half an hour beforehand.
We discovered a dead baby in the bathroom. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. It came out of me and I didn't know what to do. Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth. It was not crying or nothing.
Rosa was aware of Alexi's pregnancy, but to my understanding, this realization had occurred merely 30 minutes prior to this specific moment. But even after this point, after the doctor relayed the urine test confirmation and the bloody scene in the bathroom, Alexi still tried to convince her mom that she was a virgin.
She essentially was scared. She was worried that she was going to get in trouble. She did have the back and forth with her mother that was just about like, they had said, oh, the mom was upset because she had had sex and hadn't told her. So they were going back and forth on that, and then she was just denying it, which was a little wasn't really deniable at that point in time.
Right.
So the patient was denying having sex at this point to her mom.
Yeah, she was trying to state that she was still a virgin.
After she came in from the bathroom and all the blood and all that. Okay.
So did the pelvic, and then I think shortly after that the mom was in the waiting room after that.
Did you hear that? Even after giving birth and the doctor confirming the positive test right in front of Nurse Elizabeth, Alexi still persisted in trying to convince her mother that she was a virgin. The audacity of her gaslighting is truly astonishing. That's the reason Rosa shouted, "Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth." Despite the overwhelming evidence right in front of everyone, the positive test and the blood-stained bathroom, Alexi stubbornly clung to her fabricated story. The sheer boldness and nerve displayed by her are beyond belief. You can't convince me that this is the first time that Rosa has dealt with Alexi's gaslighting. Alexi is all too comfortable and composed while spinning these lies amidst all this chaos. Unbelievable. And Rosa was not yet aware that Alexi had delivered a full-term baby in the bathroom. Alexi was sticking to her story even after all of this. I ask you, is this the behavior of someone who has gotten away with lying her entire life, or someone going through shock? At this point, the prevailing assumption was that Alexi had encountered an early-term miscarriage, which commonly occurs within 12 weeks of pregnancy. Typically, such pregnancies don't require medical intervention, as the related tissues often flush out naturally during this early phase. This seemed to be the doctor's understanding and the reason for her concern after the excessive bleeding Alexi was experiencing. By this point, the doctor was aware of Alexi's pregnancy, but the precise stage remained uncertain. The blood test that determines the progress was still pending results from the lab, and Alexi's choice of loose-fitting attire that did well to conceal her baby bump made it easy for the doctor to infer an early-term pregnancy from her outward appearance. Despite her mother being aware of her pregnancy, Alexi continued with the charade that she hadn't recently given birth. She laid there while the doctor did a pelvic exam and remained tight-lipped about the baby in the trash can. 45 minutes would go by before police and the doctor would enter the room to tell her and Rosa that they discovered Alexi's deceased baby in the trash. Even then, Alexi pretended to be shocked by the news.
Do you guys have, I'm the charge nurse here, do you guys have any questions for me?
Like, how big is the baby?
It's full term.
What? 9 months?
Nothing was crying.
What is this reaction? This behavior is incongruent with the effects of someone going through shock, but instead are once again consistent with her established pattern of lying. Only when Alexi recognized that her lies could no longer shield her did she finally confess to discarding the baby in the trash. I don't see any sign of mental breakdown emerging from this storyline so far. Do you? Her conduct remains consistent. What remains indisputable is that Alexi's actions have undeniably proven her to be a liar. The pain of childbirth is often described as excruciating, leading many women to let out screams of distress. For some, the intensity of the pain is so overwhelming that tears accompany both the physical agony and the emotional weight of the experience. Yet, nothing was crying, not even Alexi. Why? We're all familiar with the acoustic wonders of bathrooms. Their echoes have the amazing ability to mask the off notes of even the most dreadful singer. But their magic doesn't end there. Bathrooms have the power to magnify sounds. Hard surfaces bounce sound around, while soft surfaces absorb them. Public restrooms, having no rugs, can't even trap a whisper. They withhold no secrets. Yet no one on the other side of the bathroom door had even a clue of the secrets it held inside. Not even a moan while Alexi delivered a 6-pound baby could be heard. The nurses said the bathroom was completely silent except for multiple flushes from the toilet, water running in the sink, and paper towels being pulled from the dispenser. It takes serious effort to mask the sound in a public restroom. And when you consider what went on while Alexi was in the bathroom, it seems impossible that no one heard anything. She delivered a 6-pound baby and the placenta, tore the umbilical cord, flushed the placenta, put him in a plastic bag, tied it, put him in the trash, put a clean liner over him, and then cleaned up. And the nurse standing outside the door heard nothing but flushes? I respectfully submit to you that Alexi was determined not to make even the faintest sound and did whatever was necessary to mask it. While in the bathroom, Alexi was at the end of her rope. She was determined to keep the baby a secret and keep the ER staff guessing. This took serious restraint and self-control to accomplish it. It was a matter of being quiet or being discovered. It was life or death, and Alexi was set on keeping her life as she knew it prior to becoming pregnant. The acoustics in the bathroom would have outed her if even the slightest sound was made by her or the baby. She clearly thought if there was no physical baby, she could continue her facade, lying to her mother and the ER staff, and she would have kept the doctor guessing for as long as she could pull it off. These deceptive and evasive actions are indicative of someone exercising a significant level of self-control. They certainly do not align with anyone experiencing shock. And the term self-control is really putting it lightly. In my opinion, Alexi exhibits the characteristics of a master manipulator. Let's look at some of those characteristics. Charm and charisma, check. Lying. Look at this. Manipulators excel at creating and maintaining a false narrative. They may lie, exaggerate, or omit information to manipulate others into believing their version of events. Checkity check, check, check. Emotional intelligence. Feigning ignorance or innocence. Manipulators try to suggest that any harm done was unintentional and they did not do something they are accused of. They pretend to be innocent, ignorant, or naive. Check. Guilt and pity. They often play on others' feelings of guilt or pity to elicit sympathy and manipulate them into doing what they want. Big check. Gaslighting. Check. Isolation. Control tactics. Selective empathy. She had none for that baby. Check. Projection. Manipulative language. Big check. They use language strategically, employing flattery, backhanded compliments, or loaded questions to subtly influence others' decisions or opinions. They can also use language to induce pity. Nothing was crying. Big manipulative tactic. Exploitation of weakness. Check. Lack of accountability. Big check. You get the picture. Alexi's lawyer says people are unfairly vilifying her with this term, but we see the actions and the characteristics playing out before us. In my perspective, Alexi's post-delivery actions are indicative of consciousness of guilt. The steps she undertook to camouflage the situation, her assertion that the bloody bathroom scene resulted from her menstrual cycle, and her silence regarding the delivery until she was confronted by the ER staff. All of these things collectively suggest culpability. She openly admitted to placing the baby in the trash. In my opinion, a mother who unintentionally delivered a baby would likely summon assistance. Similarly, someone with a mental deficiency might not take such meticulous measures to conceal the situation. And her response,
in terms, I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
I know.
yes, that one. That is both the weirdest and most disturbing statement. One that she repeated many times over and I think was a Freudian slip. Her choice of words is very telling. Nothing was crying. First, the word nothing makes the baby inanimate, lifeless, spiritless, merely an expulsion of waste from her body, an object that required no emotional connection from her. And with no emotional connection, she could toss him away like trash and think nothing of it afterward, which happened to be what she did. But it was the whole statement that captured my attention. Nothing was crying. When I first heard it, probably like many of you, I assumed she meant nothing was breathing, that the baby was deceased, stillborn, not breathing. But now I don't think so. Here's why. Crying, not breathing, was top of mind for Alexi during that ordeal. Even after the initial shock when the doctor said they had found the baby, Alexi continued to say this. Why? Why not breathing? Why didn't she say nothing was breathing? I know some may think that this is a language thing, but if you listen to both Rosa and Alexi throughout the events and the body cam footage and all, they both speak perfectly good English. Even when Rosa pushed Alexi for additional details, Alexi refused to say he wasn't breathing. It was, nothing was crying, Mom.
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth.
517-836-460.
That came out in the toilet bag. You put it in the bag?
Yes.
In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now? You could get in trouble for this, baby.
Mom, just give it time, okay? I'm going to speak to the detectives whenever she's ready, okay? You ready for the second one? Second one.
Alexi was fixated on crying. Why? Because crying is a sound. As I just discussed, behind that door, Alexi made every effort to not make a sound during the 18 minutes she was locked in the bathroom. She was completely silent, despite the hell that broke loose in there. and bathrooms amplify even the quietest sound. Yet no one on the other side of the door heard even a moan. Not only did she deliver a baby in those 18 minutes, but she also did all the things I've repeated incessantly. It's important to not gloss over those things because it took a great feat to pull it off within the time frame and without detection. She tore the umbilical cord from the placenta and allegedly flushed the placenta down the toilet. She put the baby in a plastic bag, securely tied it, hid him in the trash can underneath a clean liner, and then tried to clean up minutes after a vaginal birth. All in 18 minutes and in complete silence. No one heard any commotion. Nothing was crying. Not even Alexi. When she repeatedly stated nothing was crying, Alexi revealed her true actions behind that door. Nothing was crying because she allegedly silenced him. I believe that the baby was breathing, just like the autopsy report revealed. But because she didn't want to be discovered, she silenced him. According to her own words, that baby was born the second she sat on the toilet. The autopsy said he was born alive. He inhaled air, but then something prevented him from expelling that air.
In the first incident, the autopsy that I understand was conducted found air in the infant's lungs. And assuming that's a correct finding, either something or someone had to prevent that oxygen from being expelled.
The placenta was never found by either hospital. It didn't disappear into thin air. A baby depended on it for oxygen and nourishment for nearly 38 weeks. Alexi said it herself. A lot came out of me.
Number one priority, guys. Number one priority is she just had a baby. I don't know if she's delivered the placenta. She's bleeding significantly.
Yeah.
I've spoken to the obstetrician at Loveless. They want her up there as soon as possible.
Okay.
I need your permission to transfer her for medicals. She needs to
She's
be med.
19.
Oh, you're right.
But she is a student too.
She's
No,
still
no,
19
you're
years old.
right. You're right. She needs to. I'm sorry, I forgot she's 19.
Keep having me.
But you need to make sure that you're safe. I need to send you to Loveless to labor and delivery. Will you please agree to that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna work on that.
Alexi's lawyer makes a valid point regarding the impact of the delayed communication of the test results. While I agree that the communication between the medical staff and Alexi regarding her pregnancy status, her pain relief, and potential miscarriage need thorough examination, I don't agree with it being a contributing factor to malpractice. The communication between Alexi and the hospital was broken, yes, but primarily due to Alexi's own doing. While she professed ignorance about her pregnancy, she was indeed aware of her potential to become pregnant. Ignorance is not a defense. She intentionally lied to the ER staff and claimed she didn't know she was pregnant. Fine, let's say she didn't know. Many women go many months not knowing. Even if her baby never kicked at all the entire 38 weeks she carried, which I don't believe for 1 minute, she knew she had all of the makings for pregnancy and was very likely experiencing other pregnancy-related symptoms like tender boobs, for instance. The weight gain alone, increasing week after week, despite her active lifestyle and efforts to lose weight, was enough to prompt a doctor's visit and suspicion from those around her. Somehow she managed to get those phentermine pills. Did she see a doctor at that time? She knew she was engaging in activities with pregnancy implications. She was doing the nasty and had stopped taking her birth control pills. Noticing that she was gaining weight, she started taking diet pills. So she was having intercourse, she stopped her protection, and she was gaining weight. Even if she couldn't self-diagnose her problem, she knew something was amiss with her body and it wasn't going away. Instead, it was growing with time, despite her efforts to lose weight. Alexi's chosen route for weight loss involved the use of phentermine, a stimulant doctors explicitly caution against for anyone pregnant or breastfeeding, without exception. I showed you on the baby's toxicology report that he had more phentermine in his system than morphine. This shows that Alexi was indeed taking this medication for a sustained period. And mysteriously, her lawyer makes no mention of this. He instead points the finger at morphine, a therapeutic that is commonly given to pregnant women. But just like morphine, phentermine is a controlled substance in the United States, obtainable solely through prescription. In any credible medical environment, Alexi would have had to take a series of tests, even a pregnancy test, before such medication could be prescribed. The doctor would have also checked her blood pressure and heart rate because of phentermine's propensity to elevate both. This raises the questions. How did Alexi get this medication? Did they do a pregnancy test? And why are they not listed on the wrongful death suit? My sleuthy senses say that Alexi purchased this medication online and without a prescription. This would explain the absence of any other doctor on the wrongful death suit. It is both illegal and unsafe to buy phentermine without a prescription. And if she did any research at all on this medicine, she would have known that it is prohibited while pregnant. And if indeed Alexi obtained this medication from an online source without proper authorization, the consequences would be disastrous for her defense. Could this have been part of her plan to get rid of the baby all along? There's more. I submit to you that Alexi was fully aware that this medication could harm the baby. Here's how I know. Because within minutes of being told they found her baby in the trash can and that law enforcement was detaining her, she wasn't worried about what happened in the bathroom. No, she was worried about something else.
She did at one point in time, when the ultrasound tech was in the room with her, ask if there was anything. She pretty much said, would there be any bad outcomes if she had stopped taking one medication and stopped taking another? And I said, well, what medications are you talking about? And she said, well, what would happen if I stopped taking birth control and started taking weight loss medications? And I was like, I don't know.
It's an odd question.
I thought so.
Did you hear that? You mean to tell me that merely minutes after the police detained her under the suspicion that she murdered her baby in the bathroom and threw him in the trash can, that she was worried about weight loss pills? She was just caught red-handed putting a baby in the trash can just minutes prior. And this is what's on her mind? Why? I'll tell you why. This question, although it seemed strange and out of place to Nurse Elizabeth and the police, it makes clear sense to me. You see, Alexi had started to play back in her mind everything she did that could expose her, something anyone in her situation would do. This question, although seemingly very strange, directly relates to what she did in the bathroom. Like many perpetrators are being caught today going to Google to ask it questions specifically related to their crime, Alexi asked a very telling question as well. Only she didn't ask Google, at least as far as we know now. But on that night, she would ask Nurse Elizabeth. Alexi's query offers us a revealing glimpse into her state of mind and thought patterns. The question she posed and its timing indicate a clear sense of guilt. It's much like her hypothetically searching online for ways to secretly terminate the pregnancy. Given all that had just happened, the pills were of concern to her because of their relevance to what transpired in the bathroom. If the pills held no concern for her regarding this situation, the thought would have been farthest from her mind. However, her consciousness of their potential harm to the baby is apparent. Had a doctor prescribed these pills, endorsing their safety during her pregnancy, this question would be completely irrelevant. As I mentioned, any doctor who prescribed these pills would have tested her. Her question suggests she not only independently decided to take this medication, but that she is now apprehensive that law enforcement might uncover her true intentions behind its use. The question also hints that Alexi likely had an expectation that if she took these pills, the baby would indeed not be breathing at birth, and that her "nothing was crying" alibi would excuse her from putting him into the trash can. Her plan was foiled by a living, breathing baby. But she continued with her plan despite him breathing because she had no choice if she wanted to keep the baby a secret. You see, now that she was over the hurdle of Rosa knowing everything, she quickly began focusing her attention on her legal trouble. I suspect that Alexi's internet searches will unveil more about this. While her lawyer's decision to steer clear of this topic is strategic, it's almost certain that the prosecution will delve into it. And while Alexi's lawyer seeks to point out the doctor's delay in delivering the test results, he seems to overlook the most glaring delay caused by Alexi's lying. In my opinion, the fact that the doctor took a while to convey the pregnancy news becomes a secondary concern when weighed against the fact that Alexi had 38 weeks of evident signs indicating an increasingly growing issue with her health. Her actions and dishonesty led to the unnecessary delay in the doctor's awareness and the provision of timely medical care. Her lying is truly the first and most egregious cause for delay. She was engaging without protection, yet she did nothing when her body signaled pregnancy. Alexi's state of mind leading up to the critical moment remains unknown to the public, but some of her actions do provide insight. Her choice to discontinue birth control and start diet pills while continuing to engage in risky activities paints a questionable picture, and her Google searches and text messages are likely to be very telling. To ask a juror to overlook all of these details and only focus on when the doctor communicated the results and a minuscule amount of morphine, in my opinion, is a reach. In some ways, it's insulting, as it seems he's asking you to disregard logic. And let's not overlook the fact that Alexi, driven by her own volition, was also taking a drug that doctors universally caution pregnant women against using. While the drugs in Alexi's system will be hotly contested in court, it was her decision to put her baby in a sealed plastic bag that took his chances from possible survival to zero chance. Alexi's consistent and intentional denial that she ever even engaged in activities that could lead to pregnancy and her subsequent careful steps to hide, including her reaction when she was told of the discovery of the deceased baby, all point to a guilty conscience and contribute to the complexity of this case. All of the lies she told to hide, telling the nurse that the bloody mess was due to her menstrual cycle, and not saying a word about delivering a baby until she was confronted by the doctor, are a clear indication of her intent, and in my opinion, do not reflect any sign of someone in shock. The contrasting legal viewpoints from Alexi's lawyer and the medical malpractice lawyer regarding the baby's death and the role of medication add yet another layer of complexity. And expert medical opinions will likely play a significant role in determining the effects of the administered medication on the baby. Based on what I know so far, I think Alexi is 100% responsible and guilty of murder. If you were a juror armed with these facts, what say you? Was the baby stillborn or suffocated in your opinion? Was Alexi in a state of shock when she delivered the baby? If so, does that absolve her from her actions? What are your verdict vibes based on what you know so far? Cast your vote in the jury box below. I'll see you there.